Thank you. This is in behalf of Leonard Lord at Light of the World Tabernacle. Lord, thank you for keeping our city through all our struggles and failures and false accusations. Bless our mayor and council with your wisdom to move us forward with all your goodness. Thank you for our own police and fire departments to serve and protect us. Keep them safe and provide them all that they need to watch over our city. Bless our city manager and staff. May they, with your blessings, serve with us with humility and understanding heart of wisdom. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Scott Tremblay.
Here.
Vice Mayor William Dittmer.
Here.
Councilwoman Jenny Sorrell.
Here.
Councilman Todd McClary.
Here.
Councilman Tom Kinsella.
Here.
City Attorney James Matthew.
Here.
City Manager John Duke.
Here. Thank you. Before we get into comments from the general public, I wanted to congratulate our two incumbent council members, Todd McClary and Mr. Tom Kinsella, as they've both been reelected, and I wanted to be the first to congratulate them. So thank you for your service. It's much appreciated, and I look forward to working with you guys. And just as a reminder, it looks like Monday, April 19th at 7, there'll be the swearing-in ceremony, as well as we have one other item on the agenda. So I just wanted to put that announcement out there before we go into general comments. Thank you, guys. At this time, I'm going to call on... No, I'm going to... oh, yeah, we can do that. Looking for a motion to approve council minutes?
Motion to approve council minutes.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We're going to move on to comments from the general public. I'm going to call Mrs. Pat Rogers first. Welcome. Thank you for the invocation.
Pat Rogers, 4838 Sunset Boulevard. Well, I'm here again in behalf of our church, the Light of the World Tabernacle on Leo Kidd Avenue. The Easter egg hunt was a great success over at the Waterfront Park on Saturday. We estimate that there were over 200 people there, and everybody had a really good time. So thanks to the city and all the departments that helped us to put it together. And the fire department is always a treat because they come out and sound their sirens, and the kids just get really excited about it. And second, I have this sign, and it is going to be May 6th out at the Pasco County Government Center. Would like to know if we can put this sign up on the property here somewhere.
And I think that's not going to be a council decision, but I think you have to discuss that with management, probably separate from a meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, come in City Hall and we'll visit about it.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. At this time, that's all that's signed up, but I see several other folks from the general public. Would anyone else like to speak? Seeing no hands. We're going to go out of order. I'm going to move on to comments from boards and committees. So, Ms. Rodriguez, welcome.
Good evening. Just two quick things. This Saturday, we're doing Clean Up the Park. We're doing Waterfront Park at 9 o'clock. Obviously, it's one of the bigger parks that we're done, so all the help would be greatly appreciated. Don't forget gloves or picker-upper thingies. I have bags that have been supplied by the city. So we look forward to seeing you then. And we are doing our next Meet Your Neighbor on May 4th, the Tuesday at Naughty R, instead of the Wednesday because it's Cinco de Mayo, and that'll be a busy day for the restaurant. So we're going to do it May 4th, 5:30 normal time. And that's all I had.
And when's the next CAC meeting?
The Thursday, so that'd be the 6th.
The Thursday after
May
the Meet
6th.
Your Neighbor.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to invite our city manager, Mr. Duke, for some opening comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a number of report items to go through since it's been 3 weeks since we've all been together. And first of all, let me go through some of the meetings that have taken place over the last 3 weeks. I did have the opportunity to meet with the Suncoast Casino's general manager, had a good discussion about their interest in the Coatee River Landing and being a partner in that. Did attend the ribbon cutting at Avila Bay, got a tour of one of their show homes, and have a good idea of what they're doing and some of their challenges that still lay ahead. Had an opportunity to meet with the city managers of Zephyr Hills, Dade City, St. Leo, and Land O'Lakes. All 5 of us got an update from the county manager primarily on projects that are taking place in the east part of the county. Met with Coatee River Landing stakeholders. Ayers Engineering repeated their feasibility study presentation for that group. I did attend the April CAC meet and greet, had a good time, met some new folks there. Mr. Licari and I attended the Public Risk Management Board meeting. He and I were appointed by you as the council to represent the city. There are insurance carriers and a really strong resource for us. Sal and I were able to pick up a number of ideas about things to bring back to the city: training, consulting. They're going to help us with some of our HR stuff, some of their safety training that they have available. So that was a very valuable time spent just understanding not only do they provide our insurance, but they provide a number of other services. I did have a phone meeting with Mr. Keith Wiley. He's the Pasco County Parks Director. He and I visited about opportunities for the city and the county to collaborate. The county has an initiative to expand boater access, and Mr. Wiley and I were able to talk about a number of different ideas. Apparently they've spent a good deal of money on other locations for boat access, and I made the pitch for Port Richie being next on their list. We're going to get together in another 30 days. He has some funding issues that may, I don't want to make any promises, but if it goes our way, there may be funding available. So I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but if I can pressure him a little bit, that'd be okay too. So anyways, we'll get together again in 30 days and revisit the idea of the city and the county working together. We did talk a lot about Nix Park and some of the efforts to improve that over the past several years. And Mr. Wiley has significant interest in working with us to make some improvements there. A couple of project updates for you. Ayers Engineering is, as we directed them, is working on phasing for the Coatee River Landing, and I'm awaiting a call back from Mr. Martins, but expect to hear from him tomorrow. On the dredging bid that was accepted by council, I did ask Dewberry to review that bid with the contractor. Dewberry Engineering did review it with the contractor, confirmed that spoil removal is part of the bid. Dewberry confirmed that the contractor does have a plan for soil disposal, and all of that was acceptable to Dewberry. So they had no concerns or complaints with the contractor's plan on how he intends to perform our expectations. I've also been in close contact with Pasco County's Restore Act representative. The bid that you accepted has been moved to the county. They have moved it on to the U.S. Treasury. Treasury is reviewing it. I spoke with their representative yesterday. She said there's no update from the feds, and at this point in the process, no news is good news, but encouraged us not to take any additional action that gets us ahead of Treasury and county. So I assured her we would sit on our hands until we hear from Treasury and hear whether Restore Act funds are going to be made available. In your packet is the org chart that you had asked for at the last council meeting. I did notice I've got a couple of other updates to make to it, a couple of edits, but and I'll continue to tweak that org chart. But that's the basic outline of our organization right now. I did try to color code it so you can see, you know, what the status of each position and each person is. We have interviewed and selected best candidates for finance clerk and for executive administrative assistant. Both of those new employees will start Monday. Very excited to have those two on board. We're in the process of setting up and interviewing for the HR specialist position. Sal and I were discussing and working on that a little more this evening, and hopefully get that person identified and selected here in the next couple of weeks. Also working on position descriptions for a part-time IT person and a CRS building department person to replace the duties that Veronica was doing. And Ashley helped us with the election yesterday with a good deal of support from Sal. We're happy to have her stepping into the clerk's role, and she will continue to get orientation and training from Sal, but glad to have her in that position. We've also completed internal physical moves of staff and office furniture and computers. Those positions and offices include moving the clerk, the finance director, the revenue manager, the PD records manager, and the building official. So we have been shuffling furniture. My overall goal is to try to get like-minded and like-functioning people in the same geography. So anybody dealing with revenue is on one side of the building. Anybody dealing with administration and internal work is on the other side of the building. So Rachel is in the main office on the revenue side of the building, and she's there with billing. She's there with permitting and the building official and the revenue manager. When the finance clerk comes in, that person will be on that side of the building as well. So everything revenue stream is on that side of the building. Everything administration is on my side of the building. And so suffice to say, we, mostly Sal and Public Works, have been moving a lot of furniture and moving a lot of computers. The traffic study is still underway. Chief Robinson is gathering hard data, and hope that within the next few weeks we'll have some actual data and a report to present to you. So that one's moving forward. After the presentation of the feasibility study, one of the recommendations in there dealt with the intersection of US 19 and Coty. And so I've reached out to Richter Engineering, who was charged with bringing us options for what to do with that intersection, and asked them to flesh out the idea of if you decided you wanted to close that intersection. I think that was his fourth option when he and I spoke several weeks ago. So because that was in the recommendations of Ayers Engineering, I want to have that prepared for you when it's time to make a decision on that. Finance director and I will be starting on budget planning over the next couple of weeks. CLA and Rachel and I have met. CLA intends to be here in 2 weeks with Rachel to give all of us an update on where we are for this budget year. They are also reformatting, with Rachel's help, reformatting the budget documents that we'll use so that we use a budget document that looks like what it did a couple of years ago. And I've asked them to put that into a format that makes sense to me, which means a layman. I don't speak finance. I want to know what the fire department is going to have and what the police department is going to have. My assumption is that's the way you'd like to see it as well. So that's what you will be getting, and CLA and Rachel are working on that. We've begun the process internally to conduct a water audit. Our water department is putting out some fabulous data, but you know, even as far back as when I interviewed, you all discussed the challenge of water loss. And so we had a member of the state government here today to help us with that, and she's going to be helping us lead a water audit. How much do we produce? Where does it go? How much gets billed? And where does the rest of it go? And so she'll be guiding that for us. She's got some consulting expertise to help with that process. But our challenge is to know how much we produce, know how much is normal loss. Every system has normal loss. She told us today, even if you had a brand new system, there's a number that you would expect to lose. But the higher that number goes, the more you have to pay attention to it, try to figure that out. So billing staff is reviewing the billing to look for anomalies on their end. If somebody typically had a $500 bill and now they have a $2,000 bill or a $50 bill, we have to figure out why. And so billing is helping with that. The water department is helping with that on the production side. And I also had the utilities personnel there to help with the infrastructure discussion. How old are our meters? How often should they be replaced? We have started the review of our large water users, and by review, we're going out and testing their meters. Some of the meters are fine, some of the meters are not registering accurately, and so we've not only started to review them, but starting to replace meters that are not accurate. If they're more than 5% plus or minus, then we're changing them out. Found one that was 50% off, and obviously we replaced that one immediately. So that process has begun. It'll take us several months to get all of the large meter users, the large water users evaluated. And as we find meters that are not functioning properly, we're changing those out. So that's going to consume a lot of staff time and some budget money, but that's an important part of our operation. The outcome of our meeting today suggested that the numbers that we have currently are not egregious, they're not unusual, but they're big enough that we need to be paying attention to it. She also referred to our current activities as a very aggressive approach to trying to reduce those water loss and water leak numbers. So basically she said, keep doing what you're doing and keep her posted. We've got a water report coming due towards the end of the year, and our water permit is up for renewal next year. So anything we can do to improve our numbers, improve our production, and improve our delivery. Make sure that the water we produce is staying in the system, it's going through the meters accurately and being delivered to our customers. So staff is working on that with the state's assistance. There may be several $100,000 of revenue that could be recovered. That's a wild estimate on her part, so don't hold me to that. If it comes back 3 years from now, we only got 150, but suffice to say there's improvements that we can make, but she was not overly concerned. She said, you're actually in pretty good shape compared to a lot of communities, and the actions that we've taken so far have given her some relief that we're moving in the right direction. So just want you to know that's underway. It's going to take months, but we're going to find the improvements that we can make and get those accomplished. Just a couple of reminders. The mayor already mentioned we do have a council meeting scheduled for Monday evening for the swearing in. I did send all of you a copy of the invitation that was received here at City Hall, but it was addressed to all of you for the Pasco Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Service. That's May 14th on the north lawn of the historic courthouse in Dade City. And I believe those invitations, the hard copies, are in your mailboxes. Speaking of mailboxes, you all now have a mailbox in the hallway just outside of Sal's office, right by the copier. So anything that comes addressed to you, we'll make sure it gets in that mailbox. And as you come into City Hall, please check that. The CAC park cleanup has already been mentioned, so I'll blow on past that one. City cleanup will be the second and third week of May. We'll have specific dates and processes to be determined here shortly. But Sal and Public Works have been working on that. We've got dumpsters on order, and we'll do the cleanup, pickup as we have done, similar to what we've done in past years, and make that available to citizens. As soon as we have the dates and times and the processes, we'll get that onto Facebook and onto the city website and make sure people know about that. That's all I have. I stand for your questions.
Thank you. I had a couple. One of the first things you addressed was the the Restore Act is up in Treasury right now. One of the things that I think that we're supposed to address at some point was the we pledged $200,000 to go along with that project. And I don't think we've really discussed what we want to do with that. So I just wanted to kind of ask you if we had a plan, or if that was going to come on an agenda up and coming, or CRA agenda. I wasn't sure what the plan was.
Yeah, it would make sense to me to put that on a CRA agenda coming up.
Some of that stuff was on, I think it was meeting this evening, but I think we pledged that to lighting the sidewalks, which is what we committed.
Okay.
It's not me.
Maybe it's me. I'm going to leave that over there. Yeah, I think the amount has been set. The source is what we have to discuss, whether that's CRA funds or other funds. But we'll bring that up here in a couple of weeks on an agenda item.
And I think didn't we agree that it was CRA funds back when we did it?
We did.
So that's why I was going to suggest we may want to get it on a CRA. And generally, we've talked about it, but we don't have any specifics, so that's why I was bringing that up.
Will do.
Thank you. The other thing that I had is I know that there were some. Yes, please, thank you.
The Restore Act was amended by the city a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, and the purpose of the expenditure of funds has already been set and put in the amendment. I believe it's for sidewalks and lights.
Correct.
The WOD, so that's already been decided. Where you want to get the money from, that's a different issue, but what you're going to spend it on has already been pledged in the Restore Act.
Right, but what area of the WOD and specifically what?
Well, the details, yes, but I'm
Right.
just saying
Correct.
I believe it's, you can check, but I believe it's sidewalks and streets.
But we haven't addressed it in a long time, so I figured that's why I was asking. Wanted to address it at least. One of the other things that happened, I think maybe 1 or 2 meetings ago, is I know that there were some permitting issues that we had, and that we had some reports due to fix some of those issues, and I didn't know if we had any updates on whether or not we were able to get updated permits. And it was, I think, stormwater infrastructure permitting.
Yeah, the stormwater permitting is still in progress.
Okay.
That one is not due. It's not due now. So, yeah, those are still in process.
So those are things that we're just working on right now?
Yes.
Okay. And then the other thing that I was asking is we have the CRA audit still ongoing, as well as we have an annual audit coming up for citywide audit, correct?
Correct. The citywide audit has, the auditors have already been here. They're waiting for CLA to wrap up their activities, and we're getting close. So, but yes, the city's audit has already begun. I've met with that person. The CRA audit, I apologize for not including that in my list of projects. The state auditor continues to ask questions. It's mostly about documents now, and so we've been providing documents as he has asked for them. But 2 or 3 questions a week, and Rachel's been getting answers back to him as he has requested them. So as far as I know, we don't have any outstanding questions, and so we're keeping up with his requests at this time.
Okay. And time frame wise, I believe a few weeks ago, we were guessing that maybe it was about 6 weeks out. Is that correct?
Correct.
Which would put us about 3 weeks out now if nothing's changed?
Correct. And I talked to him in the middle of last week. He didn't have any changes in that. I asked him. He said, no, we're still on the same timeline. So he did not make any alterations to that estimate.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. I wanted to open up any comments or questions from the.
In the organizational chart, we have 4 vacancies currently, and then you had mentioned a finance clerk is still open. Is that in addition to this, or is that one of Seems like that's an additional box.
That's a box that I did not put on there.
And also
That's an
the,
edit that I've made.
and also the part-time IT
Right.
it would be another box. So
Yes.
there's 6 vacancies right
The-
now.
The finance clerk position has been filled. We've offered that. The person has accepted.
Okay.
And the administrative assistant position has been offered and accepted. The HR person, we have not identified a person for that. And the CRS ISO position remains vacant.
And the Public Works has a funky color to it. That's a vacant position?
Well, it was an attempt to make it both blue and yellow.
Okay.
It is a salaried position, and it is a vacant position.
That's all I have.
Thanks.
Are we gonna get a new phone list after you get everybody moved?
Yes, ma'am. In fact, I got an updated list today. I will get that out to you.
Vice Mayor?
One of the items I wanted to bring up to Mr. Dute, on Treadway, where the pedestrian walkway is, that's getting narrower by the day. The overgrowth and dirt washout has made it, it's always holding water. So if we could have somebody look at that and clear that back, because that path is, like I said, getting smaller and smaller by the day. So,
Yes, sir.
Treadway, the pedestrian walk. Thank you. That's all I have.
Any follow-up comments, Mr. Duke?
No, thank you.
Thanks. At this time, I'd like to move on from comments from council, and I'm going to start back with Mr. Vice Mayor. I don't have any. I had asked all the questions that I wanted to ask.
I have one. I know a few weeks back, the federal government passed the Relief Act, which provides a sizable amount of funds to the local governments. I know we had spoken about it briefly, but you were tracking it down and looking for some direction. My understanding is the money, at least part of the money, would be starting to be distributed within the next 60 to 90 days. Do you have any further information on that, and especially in terms of expenditures or how the federal government would see it want to be spent, as it is a sizable amount?
Yeah, it is a sizable amount. I have not seen anything specific. I know the Florida League of Municipalities has put out information about upcoming training in anticipation of those funds, but I've not received anything from the league or from the feds, the state. No other source has said, here it is, here's the rules, here's the implementation, no guidance. And I watch the league's information fairly closely, and it's pretty safe to assume they'll help us with that when that does come along. So that's kind of my primary source of accurate information. And I know they've put out, we will have training coming up, guidance for municipalities, but that hasn't materialized that I'm aware of.
Mr. Kinsella?
The question I have is about our cruisers, the status on them, and how are the rest of the fleet holding out?
Yes, we received 2 of the cruisers. In the report you have, at that time we only had 1 in. We've since picked up another one, and we received a call today that we have another one available. We just have to make arrangements to go and pick that one up. It appears that it's, now that they've got the lights in, it seems that they're coming a little quicker. And they were saying that in regards to the work time to put in is like 5 to 6 days per vehicle. So we'll just get them as they come out. We've been having some issues with some of the older vehicles in the fleet. That's actually, in order to keep them running and have them available not only for the full-time officers, but for the reserve officers when they come in, has become a problem. So the sooner we get the new vehicles, the better. And it's just becoming more of an expense just to keep them functioning, and they're not, and some of them are actually ones that we're going to surplus, but we have to use them at this point because we don't have any others.
And the only other is our website and the changes that you all been making, that it's very encouraging, keeping the citizens informed. Thank you. And I know you have a lot of other things on your plate, but you know, comments that I've heard from our citizens, they're appreciating an updated website, keeping them informed. So thank you for that. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. The bulk of that work has been Mr. Licari, and but our internal initiative is to get as much information up as we can. At some point, we'll, as I told you 3 weeks ago, we'll revamp the entire site. But even with the structure that we have, we're trying to get as much information into the website as possible. So that's thanks to Sal's hard work.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to move on to the consent agenda, and I'm looking for a motion.
Motion for consent agenda.
Second.
Any need for discussion? No. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Next up is council business. We're going to move on to the first item, which is title item 3, which is department head reports. And I'm going to pass that to Mr. Duke to invite department heads as he sees fit.
Thank you, Chief Robinson.
In your packet, you'll see that during the month of March, we had 1,444 generated calls for service. If you take note of the one sex offense that is unfounded as a result of the investigation, however, we had to list it as it came in. In looking at the monthly activity, Officer McConnell successfully completed the drug recognition expert training, which is a very difficult and time-consuming endeavor. But he joins Officer Williams as the agency DREs. It's kind of significant because it's 341 in the entire state, and in Pasco County it's a total of 3, and our agency has 2 of them. So that's a good job by those guys. Communications Center renovations were completed and back in full operation. We had the professional photographer from the company Zybex that did the work come Friday to take some pictures. So we'll have those for the next council meeting, unless you want to. You're more than welcome to go back and take a look at it yourself. And if you remember what it looked like to what it looks now, you'll see that it's a drastic improvement. Sergeant's promotional examination was administered on the 22nd, and as you may have seen on the website, Officer Esposito was promoted to sergeant. We still have one vacancy from an officer, sergeant that is going to be stepping back down voluntarily to be an officer, so we'll have to administer another sergeant's exam. On the 24th and 25th, we had the first opportunities to use the Pasco County Sheriff's Office training range, the firing range. We've had some weapons, some AR-15 rifles sitting in their armory for, I would imagine, about a year, because it's before I got here. And this was the first opportunity we've had to actually send them out to qualify with them and issue those out. And so everyone that went out did qualify, and so they have been issued out to the officers on the road. We continue our policy and procedure revisions, excuse me. We started a full audit starting on this past, we'll be starting on the 4/12. CAD RMS system is functioning. Still minor software, hardware, and user error issues still exist, but nothing really concerning at this point. And as you can see, to continue to monitor the COVID-19 situation and the vaccine distribution issues. And we'll always, as usual, work with Pasco SO's intelligence arm of their agency to keep us abreast of any kind of protests or any activities, any events that require our attention. We're working with NRPD to schedule waterway coverage with, depending on calls for service, manpower, and weather. The only issue we're having right now is we lost Officer Tactuck. That was one of the officers that was able to take the boat out, knows the waters, and familiar with boating operations. The only other one right now is now Sergeant Esposito, and Reserve Officer Stefanski. So I put out a memo put out to see who else may be interested, so we can start getting some more people familiar with the waterways and boating operation until there is a boating course, boating captain's course, not for commercial, but for law enforcement. We've been monitoring the sites, and there just hasn't been anything to this point. And we continue to work with the state attorney's office to continue to foster that relationship with training. The training that we had scheduled was for dealing with juveniles, whether it's diversion or whether it's enforcement. However, their juvenile attorney had gone out for FMLA and will be out for 4 months. So they will notify us as soon as that training is, that attorney is back available, and we'll set up the training like we have been with them. And they do appreciate us taking the time to get with them about our operations and wanting to learn more. So we continue to do our in-house training online, and we also have almost every entity within the organization attending some training, property and evidence, communications, and patrol are all have scheduled and or taken some form of training during this year, and that's the goal, to get to touch every aspect of the agency. And just there's some continuing work on the building revitalization projects, the painting, cleaning, reorganizing is still underway, and we're waiting on the bid results for the boat.
Thank you, Chief Robinson. Chief Policastri, Fire Department.
Today we're working on to set a final date for the CPR of the park. I hope to have that by the end of the week, and I'll give everybody about at least 3 or 4 weeks to, notification to give people time to get out there, get it out on social media, get it into the city's website. You guys really picked a great time to buy a new fire truck, because the other fire truck, Engine 41, when we sent it in for our annual pump testing and checkup, we found out that it's irreparable. So we have to go pick it up. It's in Ocala now. It has a serious frame rust issue, which kind of irked us because we sent it to the same company for the last couple of years for the same annual inspection and checkup. And then come to find out that it's like $75,000 plus to fix a 20-something-year-old fire truck that's worth $11,000. So we're working on now, trying to figure out who would buy it from us and what we can get for it as to the condition it's in now. We did have a big mutual aid call with the county for a big brush fire. We had crews committed on for several hours the other day. Since COVID started, we held off on routine annual inspections of businesses. We have it laid out, we have it organized as far as which ones we're going to do annually, biannually, and 18-month. But we're waiting for confirmation of some funds from the state that would help us, since COVID was the big issue with this whole thing and put us all behind because all of our man hours were tied up doing COVID stuff. So once that gets set up and approved, we have a game plan to try to get out and get all the city's 400 plus businesses inspected in a very timely manner. Completing surplus, we have a list in front of you today, and then we have a little bit more left to be able to clear out that station, get all that surplus out of there, and get all the updated stuff organized in there. We're in the middle of agency policy review, but that's a big task. Some of the policies date back to the late 80s. So it's just a big task to get them all, review them all, and then get them rewritten to today's current standards. And we're still working on a COVID cost sheet on what the fire department has spent for straight time, overtime, part-time, and equipment and supplies on all COVID-related items. But again, that's a big undertaking. We're short-staffed as it is, and then just having people sit back behind a computer and pull through forms for, going back just over a year to try to get those numbers. But we just want to make sure it's accurate. So we're working on those COVID costs. And then we just sent in a few applications for part-time people to try to up our staffing a little bit to help us out, trying not to overwhelm administration who's already busy doing a million things, but we're trying to squeak in a couple of part-timers to help us out. And for the fire department, that's about it for now.
Thank you, Chief. Revenue Manager, Veronica?
Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. Anything from operations? Sal?
Our record destruction still continues. We have it scheduled for the first week of May with the help of the police department and all the other departments. We're looking between 50 to 60 boxes of, just old files, old cases, stuff that have passed their time to hold on to and are able to destroy. Tonight, on your agenda, we have an item for City Hall surplus. Tonight is a discussion on the towers that were, removed from the storage room. They've been around for a very long time, but unfortunately, that is still just the pretty much icing on the cake. We still got quite a bit of, bit to go. There's the storage room has been, was pretty much unkept for quite some time, and myself and staff are working diligently to try and, bring these items out, separate them, segregate them, and prepare them for use so they can be declared a surplus. Our election day went really well. Congratulations to Tom Kinsella and Todd McClary. Tom, sorry if I said that, Tom Kinsella and Tom McClary. Congratulations, gentlemen, on winning your election. The election itself, in here, we yesterday we had about 50, 60 people vote, but it was our mail-in ballots that were unbelievably high, which is very good for an election of, like this. It's been a while. We've had over 600 votes for an election, so there was a really good turnout all the way around. Brian Corley was here yesterday with staff. He was very happy on how the poll workers organized the room, how everything was okay, working properly, and the SOE completed that yesterday. Our meetings, the city manager went over most of the meetings that we have for the remainder of the month. So our lien searches, we did about 52 lien searches for the month, and our positions and interviews are still continuing for the HR specialist. And as per the org chart, we're going to have a few more positions opening up on the website soon, and we'll release that for the general public and other people to view. We are also sending those positions out to multiple entities, including the League of Cities and other state agencies, so we can try and select the best candidates for these positions. I believe that's all I have. Yep, that's it.
So, that's all we have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'd like to open it up just for maybe some questions to department heads, if that's okay. And I wanted to start with Chief Robinson. We're coming into budget season. I see two items that are coming up. It looks like there's a boat that went out for bid, and I believe that was budgeted from last year, that put in for this year's budget. But I don't remember the amount that was budgeted. Do you know the?
There was no set limit as far as I was aware.
Okay. So we didn't have an amount budgeted, but it was in the budget.
That's correct.
Okay, because that's what I was trying to figure out. I was trying to figure that out, and then also the source of the money, whether or not it was Penny for Pasco or some other funds. So I wanted to ask you about that, as well as the cars, because we have the rest of the cars coming in. But I wanted to know if you had any preliminary opinions on what, whether or not we need to look at for next year, because we're coming into budget season again. If you'll have or be able to put some information together upcoming, so we know where we're at once we get this new fleet of cars, where we stand and what we need in terms of maintenance on the rest of the vehicles.
Yes, I believe not long after I got here, the council approved, agreed to 3 vehicles per year as far as a vehicle replacement program, in order to get the fleet to the point where we're not spending as much money to maintain vehicles, put more money into vehicles than they're worth just to keep them on the road. And so at this point, we still need to continue that in order to get the fleet up to the point where it should be, reliability-wise.
Right, but what I was hoping, even as we start the budget for these new cars, I wanted to know the need versus what we're buying, because obviously we have to stay on top of that. And I didn't know if you had a system in place where when the budget season rolls around, we'll know where we're at exactly with the entire fleet and each vehicle in it.
Yes, sir, we do. We keep track of each vehicle and the cost to maintain that we're spending on each vehicle, and we keep a running total of that. And when it comes time, we'll know. We already know which ones we need to surplus because they're costing us more than they're worth. So we do keep track of that every time a bill comes in.
Okay, perfect, thank you. That's what I was trying to figure out. Any questions, rest of the panel?
Yeah, Chief Robinson, with the wonderful weather we've been having, I assume there's a lot of uptick in the activity that's out there. But the noise complaints, we had 5 of them. Were they business or residential, or do you know?
I'll have to double check, but there was nothing of significance unless you have something that you're concerned about. I can absolutely look into that for you, but there was nothing that stood out for us.
No, I was just wondering if the difference was business or residential. Because most of our complaints in the past have been business related, not residential.
Right.
So that's what I was more interested in. Are we having complaints about noise against their businesses, or are they all cooperating with their noise level regulations right now?
Anytime we have from my understanding and from talking with officers, that we get a complaint from a business or against a business that is a noise complaint, we will go there and we'll look at it, and they have been told to turn it down, and they turned it down. We don't have any other reports from it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have the same question on businesses. Actually, I have something, since we're talking about the boats, I just pulled up the 2021 budget, and we don't have any boats budgeted for 2021 in terms of expenditures, so.
That's why I was asking.
Yeah,
Correct.
there's no funds right now for a boat. Or at least no funds set aside, and I'm going through here. To the same extent, we also don't have any cars. We have some boat maintenance and some items such as that. I know we had talked at one point about 3 cars, but it was actually gonna be part of a capital improvement plan citywide, so we could start analyzing all of these items, not, yeah, well, we think we need a boat or anything of that nature. And I know Mr. Dude is new to the whole thing and probably not privy to all these conversations, but it would be part of a capital improvement plan, not a set 3 cars per year or whatever, because I don't know if no one has confirmed if 3 cars per year is the right amount, or is it 2 cars a year? I mean, right now you're getting 6 cars.
Mm-hmm.
That would be part of the capital improvement plan, so we can see as a city, is 3 cars the right number, and how does that lay out for the 18 cars that you have in service? Accordingly, since you have 6 cars coming on board, and yes, we're catching up, I'm not arguing that part, but if we're going to start talking about boats and cars and everything, I'd like to see it as part of, 1, how it correlates to our budget, and 2, well, how does it correlate to a capital improvement plan?
Thank you. That's why I was asking, because I didn't remember seeing it in the budget. I know that was talked about at some point, so. Mr. Kinsella,
But
did you
you
have?
do have $3,000 to buy for maintenance on your boat.
Only question I have is, Veronica, on that grant, that the money that we still have, is that going to expire where we're going to lose that, or?
Generally, what happens is it does not roll over. So it just starts again if council desires to keep the grant going come October 1st, then it starts all over again.
Okay.
And I believe that's a CRA grant for
Yes.
Yes, sir.
improvement, community improvements? Yes, okay.
No, it's CRA money, so we don't lose it. It's still ours, but we allocated on the CRA for that, so once the fiscal year ends, you could reallocate. So if each year you're doing 50, you have 40 left over, you want to do 90, you can do that. Does that answer your question?
Thank you, Mr. Matho. Did you have anything else? Okay. I think that's all that we had for questions for the department heads. Thank you, all department heads, for your hard work. At this time, I wanted to move on to item number 4 of council business, which is the fire department's surplus of equipment. And I'm going to pass that to Mr. Dude to pass it or introduce it to whoever he deems appropriate.
Well, in brief, it's another bundle of stuff that Chief Paul Castry has come up with that, you can see in the pictures the state of it. If you have specific questions, we'd be glad to answer that. It's stuff that's no longer viable for fire department use, so request your approval to dispose of it appropriately.
Thank you, Mr. Dude. I'm going to open to any questions, comments, and/or motions to the council.
I did tour the fire station a couple of weeks ago, and even if we cleared it out, it's still
Fire department does need a new building that is a very futuristic plan.
Yes, ma'am.
We're happy to get them their fire truck, you guys have to wait on a new building.
Motion to approve fire department equipment.
We have a motion and a second. Let's put it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. We're going to move on to item 5, which is the police department impound vehicle surplus, and I'm going to pass that to Mr. Dute for introduction.
Again, a list of vehicles that have met the qualification for disposal. Procedure we've used recently in the past, those will go to auction and be disposed of in a very public manner.
I'm going to open it up to any questions and or comments or motions with the council.
Motion to approve list of vehicles from the police department as surplus property and offered for sale.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We're going to move on to the City Hall surplus of equipment. I'm going to pass that to Mr. Dute for introduction.
As you can see in the pictures, there is a significant number of very old towers and servers. We basically had two options to dispose of them if and when you approve the disposal. One, we could bring Big Sur in to wipe them to make sure there's no data on them, and then try to sell them to scrappers or whomever might be interested in 10 or 12 or 15-year-old computer parts. Staff's estimation is it'll cost us more to have Big Sur come wipe the memories than what the scrap value is of them. So rather than try to get a few dollars out of their value after they've been wiped, our intent will be to destroy the hard drives, take the hard drives out, make them inoperable, destroy the hard drives, and then dispose of all of them, making sure that the hard drives are not recoverable.
Thank you. I'm going to open for comment and or motion with council. And my comment is on an older computer. I think that it would be not cost effective to try and salvage anything and sell it. And you guys certainly have enough other things to do at this point. So my recommendation would be just to dispose of them. But I'm going to open it for either comment or a motion with the council.
Motion to approve the equipment from City Hall as surplus property and disposed of by other means determined by the city.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. We're going to move on to item 7, which is the second reading of the City of Port Richey Fertilizer Ordinance. I'm going to pass that to our city attorney, Mr. Mathau.
Thank you, Mayor. This will be the second and final reading by title only of ordinance number 21-683. After I read it, if there's any questions, I'll gladly answer them. An ordinance of the City Council of Port Richey, model ordinance for Florida-friendly fertilizer use on urban landscapes, providing for a new Article to Chapter 14 Environment, Article 9, Florida-friendly fertilizer use on urban landscapes, providing for findings, providing for purpose and intent, providing for definitions, providing for applicability, providing for timing of fertilizer application, providing for fertilizer-free zones, providing for low-maintenance zones, providing for fertilizer content and application rates, providing for application practices, providing for management of grass clippings and vegetative matter, providing for exemptions, providing for training, providing for licensing of commercial applicators, providing for enforcement, providing for penalties, providing for inclusion in code, and providing for effective date. Looking for a motion.
I'm going to open it at this time for either motion and or comment.
I'd be so happy you didn't have to read that.
Yeah, you got that right.
Motion to approve the second reading of the City of Port Richey Fertilizer Ordinance 21-683.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. This time we're going to move on to item 8, which is the approval of state highway lighting maintenance and compensation agreement. I'm going to pass that to Mr. Dute.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Several weeks ago, I received an email from state agency, FDOT, indicating it's time to renew our 7-year agreement with them for reimbursement for lighting maintenance. Significant investigation for what that actually means. The best staff, legal, and I can come up with is that there are 77 lights on US 19 within the city of Port Richey that if and when the state's audit state out. Pardon me? I don't know if it's ubiquitous, but many municipalities are engaged in this kind of agreement with the state. The bottom line is, if we agree to it, our compensation goes up 5% over the next 7 years. If we don't agree to it, it defaults to the current agreement and the compensation stays the same. So I assured the state entity that I would put it in front of you for consideration. So it pleases you and you pass it, then the money we receive for passing information from the monitor company to the entity that's supposed to fix it goes up 5%. And Ms. Matthew delved into it a little deeper. She has the answer.
Since we have a attorney on as our mayor, I presume he's going to ask me in here, there's no amount put in as how much they're going to pay us. Okay, so I'm not real happy about signing What's that? On which page? That's an example. You're talking about at the bottom, 3.0's compensation?
Yeah, so 77 lights.
Patient schedule.
Yeah, because it says payments will be calculated in accordance with Exhibit A. You go to Exhibit A, page 70, and it says $22,610.
If you go to page 64, I understand that. It's page 64 that's missing the figure. That always concerns me.
Yeah, then the payments will be calculated in accordance with Exhibit A.
Yeah, well, no. FDOT shall pay the maintaining agency a sum of blank.
Yeah, then the next line payments, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and I guess no, they've already put in writing that that may change. Okay, so it's an open item in that sense. Okay, and the reimbursement rate and some other issues, they really haven't gotten to the full attachment yet, which is fine. You understand? They're going to want us to sign it, and we have enough emails back and forth. I don't think FDOT's going to do anything. So the number may be a little different than that, and it will be 5% higher. We've been doing this for 20 years, I think.
I think it's great that we get an administrative fee for all our hard work on keeping the lights up. So I don't think we have any choices in terms of, obviously, the best course of action seems to be to accept the extra 5% on top of what we've received in the past.
Yes, sir.
So that would be my recommendation, if that's what you're recommending.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Otherwise, we get compensated at 90%. If it so pleases you, we'll get 95.
Well, motion to approve the state highway lighting and maintenance compensation agreement.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. That concludes council business. We're going to move on to old business, and I'm going to move off to my right with Mr. Kinsella. Councilman McClary.
Back to the statement about losing engine 41, essentially, we're down to 2 engines at this point. Is there any concern regarding the second backup engine in terms of its viability? I recall that was the older engine.
Yeah, I mean, there's always concern, because we don't have a big pool of equipment to pull from, but, it is what it is, we can't just bring another fire truck, we have to come up with a game plan. I have a plan
Anything else, Mr. McLaren? Okay. Councilwoman Searle? Thank you.
All set.
All right, that concludes our old business. Of course.
And I wanted to, just to get the permission of council and the city attorney, our Monday meeting is a swear-in ceremony and organizational meeting, but it is a standard council meeting. On request of the city manager, we added an additional item to that agenda. It's a grant proposal for the fire department. So I have made revised agendas to present to you and hand them out to you today, so you have time to review before Monday. So if there's no issue, I can go ahead and distribute them to council.
I'm looking for a motion to accept. We're going to take, are we taking that into the record and then distributing them?
It would be entered into the record as a new agenda for Monday,
Okay.
Monday the 19th, and then I'll go ahead and enter that into the record after you accept it. You'll get copies, and
Motion
the
to
copies will be
accept.
posted.
Excuse
Motion to
me,
accept.
Mayor, you wanted my input?
Yes, sir, please, yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
please.
Well, I'm kind of a little blindsided here since I don't have the charter with me, but this is an organizational meeting. Okay, to do general business at that is somewhat problematic, not on the second or fourth Tuesday. This is solely a special meeting, organizational.
So it would have to be a special meeting separate than an
Yeah,
organizational
you want to do a
meeting.
special meeting, but just adding regular business to that meeting, I got a problem with without being able to research it.
So the question is whether or not there's a need for an emergency meeting or whether or not that can go on the next.
I'm not sure what the addition is, so I don't know. What's the addition?
FDLE grant. I finally got the answers from the state that you and I were concerned about.
Can that go on the next meeting?
I'll reach out, I can reach out to state and see if we can push it off another 2 weeks. They had given us a deadline, and when I talked to the state representative today, she said that was a soft deadline, but to let her know if there are any more delays, so.
I mean,
If we're dealing-
just out of curiosity, can we call a separate special? I don't know, am I doing it?
So is mine.
Yeah, can we do a separate special meeting after the Monday special meeting?
That might be, I'm sorry. That might be a way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, so we just close
Why don't you
the,
just call for it right now?
yeah, so I'll call for a special meeting to address the item of the FDLE grant. To be-
And set forth the emergency of it now.
And set forth the,
It's an emergency.
It's an
That was
emergency
a special
grant,
meeting
yeah.
for the public's notice, so the reasons are, why did it, how did it become an emergency?
The pending deadline that we were given by the state of this Friday pushes it.
All right, that's good enough, me.
there we go.
Motion? Second. The second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, I guess we wouldn't accept it then theoretically, because now I just called a new meeting, correct? Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think there's any, if there's any writing requirement, you're all ready to do that, you can do it in the morning or something. Okay, I have to check the rules for a special meeting, but everyone's agreed to it if someone, just for compliance, right? I think someone has to send a notice to the other person and note it, and things like that. You just can't do it.
I got to send them an email or something?
Well, you may very well have to, yes. Yeah, this is the first time hearing it, so I'm a little taken back by that. So there may be compliance, so I presume everyone will comply?
Someone's getting a text, hold on.
Okay.
At the end of the thing, from a procedural standpoint, you want us to leave our books here and then you have to redo them all and just redeliver them? That'd be fine. All right, any other business, full business, before we adjourn? Looking for a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.